the Brand Ed Podcast with Robbie Fowler, episode 15, entitled The Foundation for All Great Marketing. By the time we wrap up this episode, you're going to know the answer to these three questions. What is the foundation of all great marketing? Why doesn't anybody talk about it? And how can it make or break us? Welcome to the Brand Ed Podcast with Robbie Fowler, the show that helps you build a life-giving personal brand and business. I believe the chaos and confusion around branding, marketing, and business strategy leads to burnt-out leaders, underperforming businesses, and life-draining brands. The best way forward is to connect your branding, marketing, and business strategy together so you can become a better leader, build a stronger business, and bless the customers you serve. Welcome to this episode of the Brand Ed Podcast. It's great to have you here with me. I do really appreciate you joining me and listening in. You look amazing today, by the way, so good for you. Let's jump in. I want to start with a quick recap of the Radical Empathy Brand Framework. That's where we have been, and it's just a simple 7-part framework that helps us piece all of this together, so that the more we understand how these pieces work in this simple 7-part framework, the better we can go execute, make decisions, avoid wasting time, don't get burned out, don't go try things we shouldn't be doing. So that's the purpose of the framework. It's to help you over time. The more and more you become familiar with the framework and the pieces that are in there, the quicker you can move, the less time and money and energy you'll waste on doing marketing or branding efforts that don't actually help you, don't grow your business, don't serve your customer, right? We want to avoid all that, right? So that's what the 7-part framework does. So let's do a quick recap. Part 1 of the framework was your customer. And we talked about the fact that your customer has a problem that they need to solve or a possibility they need help securing. A problem they need solved or a possibility they need help securing. So that's your customer. And we have them over there on the left-hand side of the cliff because that's what it feels like to them. They're on the edge of a cliff. Whatever the problem is or the possibility they can't secure, they don't know how to move forward without help from someone. Part number 2 is your business, right? And you want to answer those 2 questions. What problem do you solve for them, stated in a way that your customer, understands it? And number 2, what possibility can you help them secure? Okay, so we don't start with your business. We actually start with your customer. So part 1 of the framework was your customer. Part 2 of the framework is your business. And then we drew a bridge that connects the left-hand cliff where your customer is over to the right-hand cliff where you are. And that bridge has 3 pillars that support it. And that first pillar is the pillar of marketing. And we said we put it there first because usually marketing is about making more people aware. Marketing is about awareness, making more people aware of your business or your personal brand. So that's that first pillar. It's nearest to your customer, right? So they find out about you most oftentimes through some form of marketing. The second pillar that helps support that bridge that connects your customer to you, the second pillar is your core message. And not a lot of people necessarily talk about this, but you want to figure out what is it I ultimately want to say to my customer. If I were to boil it all down, what would I want to tell my customer if I had just a minute of their attention about how I could help them with that problem or possibility? Okay, and then we said that's actually what shapes your marketing. The better defined your core message is as it relates to your customer, the faster and more efficient and more effective your marketing will be. And then the last pillar, right? So the first pillar, nearest your customer, was marketing. The middle pillar was core messaging, and the third pillar of the bridge is branding. And branding is about fondness. It's about building that trust with your customer. Okay. So part 1 of the framework, customer. Part 2, your business. Part 3 is the 3 pillars that support that bridge. Part 3, marketing. Part 4, your core message. Part 5, branding. Part 6, we looked at in the last 2 episodes, I believe. Part 6 is up there above all of this, like framing all of this, is a radical empathy for your customer. A radical empathy for your customer. A radical empathy is put up there to frame everything, how you look at your customer, how you look at your business. Radical empathy should affect what and how you do your marketing, what you say in your core message, and how you think about your brand. You're building it for your customer, not yourself. Okay, so that's the radical empathy piece. So that's parts 1 through 6. Customer 1, your business 2, marketing 3, core message 4, brand 5, radical empathy, framing all of that for your customer 6. And here is part 7. Now, this is the foundation, I think, of all great marketing. And ironically enough, nobody wants to really talk about it. Okay, so let's talk about it. What is the foundation of all great marketing? This is what I put at the bottom of the framework. Okay, so if you're thinking the 3 pillars that support the bridge, this is what's beneath them. So if this were a picture, right, this is like the dirt or the ground or whatever beneath the bridge, supporting the bridge. That's why it's the foundation, right? And the foundation is your character, your values, and your purpose. Okay, your character as a leader. So if you run a personal brand, this is your personal character. If you lead a business or you're an entrepreneur, I'm talking about your character. That's the foundation. Your character, right, helps shape and drive your values. And both of those together show up, right? Kind of those gel together, they synthesize together, those get expressed, your character and your values, they get expressed as your purpose. The purpose of your business, the purpose of your brand. That's the foundation beneath that. And here's what we mean when we say that. Here's the reality. If you run a personal brand, or if you're thinking about doing that, if you are thinking about a side hustle, or you have one and you're ready to step out on your own. If you're an entrepreneur, right, and you enjoy building businesses and you've built several or you're about to start building your first. If you're a business leader, you started a business, or, you're the key member or a co-founder of a business, here's the reality. Business squeezes out of you as a leader what's already on the inside. It does not produce it. I'm going to say that again because that's a scary but very true reality. Being in business, running your business as a personal brand, as a small business, as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, business squeezes out of you what's already on the inside. It does not produce it. Okay. Now, no marketing books. I don't see any that are really talking about that. Branding books, they're not necessarily, talking about that. But that is the foundation. Your character and your values, that's going to shape the way you think about your customer. It's going to shape what you will or won't do in your marketing. I mean, there's lots of stuff. You can be pretty shady. You can be manipulative. You can, cover up some things or hide some things or conceal some things, almost like you can with makeup, right? Hey, we'll just cover over the blemishes. You can totally do that in your marketing. You can cut corners. You can overpromise. All of these things, right? Now, most of us don't, right? We never set out to go, that's what I'm going to do. So most of us go, but I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. The harsh reality, though, as you get out there and things don't work out in your business like you thought they would, we shouldn't be shocked at what folks will do. And we also shouldn't be presumptuous enough to think, I would never do that. I would never let my business or brand or life or whatever get in that kind of scenario where I would compromise and therefore, take some shortcuts or, spend too much or spend too little or whatever the mistake the mistake might be. The reality is business squeezes out of you what's already on the inside. It does not produce it. Okay. That's why the foundation for all great marketing is your character, your values, which flows into your purpose. Okay. So that's what I think is the foundation of all great marketing. It does not mean, I'll say this, it does not mean that you can't be a great marketer and have so-so character. Unfortunately, you can. Like, you can have effective marketing. It can be you can be good at it and not be a great person. But it is the foundation for all great marketing, the kind we would really want to holistically emulate. Okay, so that's the first question. What is the foundation? It's your character, your values. That's what's at the bottom of the radical empathy framework, because it is foundational. Okay, secondly, why doesn't anybody want to talk about this? Well, by now it should be fairly obvious. That's one reason is there is, I think, particularly in the North American, U.S. Market, kind of the context, at least I'm in, and many of you are probably in many ways, almost any sort of Western culture setting. One of the reasons nobody talks about this is we're walking around, particularly in business, we're walking around with a false dichotomy between the person leading the business or the personal brand or the entrepreneur, right? We've got a false dichotomy between the person leading the business and the business. So all of these books, all of these marketing resources, all of these, the articles we read, whatever, we're using to help grow as marketers, to help us go market our business better, to help us, build our brand. We're talking about business as if a person is not ultimately not only involved, but like driving the whole thing. So one reason nobody wants to really talk about this foundational character issue is there's just a false dichotomy. Like, hey, we can talk about the business without talking about the person. And at least for me, I'm 48 years old now. So I've been around the block a few times. I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that at all. Now, you might be different. I don't buy it at all. There's a connection between the person of the personal brand or the business or the entrepreneur and the business. Last time I checked, there's never been a business or personal brand or, a company that's come out of an entrepreneur. Like, there's never been one that's not been started and involved a human, as far as I know. No artificial intelligence that I'm aware of yet to date has started, several successful companies. So get rid of that false dichotomy. You should care about you as a person if you're a personal brand or a business leader, because you is foundational to the business, whatever it is. You are your character, your values, and how that shapes your purpose. Okay. Now, the second reason nobody wants to talk about this when they talk about branding or marketing, well, obvious, it's like really personal. Okay. It's really and like, I'm not sure if my marketing book would sell if I start meddling in people's personal business. I totally understand that. And I'm not suggesting, that we get down in there meddling. I am saying, though, you have to pay attention you have to at least address this foundational aspect. It's what's beneath all of the marketing and branding that you're going to do. Okay. So why does anybody want to talk about this? Because talking about it gets you into serious business, right? Gets you into serious business, pardon the pun, because you're meddling with people's lives. You're talking about people's actions and beliefs and motives and behaviors and the stories that are driving them, that's beneath all of that. But if you've been alive, even a little while, surely you've recognized that like people's stories, it will absolutely shape what they're running after, what they're, chasing after in their business, where they want to go, how driven they are. All of that's wrapped up in there. It's not simple. I understand that. I'm not suggesting it's simple to think about how all of that works together. I am suggesting, though, they do work together. They are connected. Okay, so what is the foundation of all great marketing? The foundation, although none of us really want to talk about it, is the character of you, your character, your values, and your purpose. That's foundational. Obviously, it's not super popular. It's not talked about very much at all that I'm aware of in most, like popular level marketing courses, books, branding books, articles, etc., even podcast. It's not talked about a lot. The third question we said we wanted to tackle today: what is the foundation of all great marketing? If it's your character, let's talk just for a second as we wrap this up. How can it make us or break us? How can it make us or break? Because if it can't make us or break us, then why mess with it? Let's just learn how to do marketing better, learn how to build a stronger brand so that we can grow our business, make more revenue, try not to do anything crazy or illegal, and just go on about our business. But how does the fact that I'm arguing that your character is the foundation, like you want to be a better marketer, one thing you can do, a foundational thing you can do, is to address and work on and take into account your own character and personal development. Okay, how can it make us or break us? I want to read one quote because we could spend a lot of time here, and we'll come back and address this, I'm sure, in some future episodes. But I wanted to share a quote. It's from the author's name is Dr. Parker Palmer. Dr. Parker Palmer. He wrote a book called Let Your Life Speak, Listening for the Voice of Vocation. Now, you may not be familiar with Dr. Palmer. I was not before I came across this quote. He has a PhD in sociology from the University of California at Berkeley, so UC Berkeley. He's got 13 plus honorary doctorates. That's pretty impressive. He was named one of the 30 most influential senior leaders in higher education. Okay, so he's got some clout. He's he's not a no. So even if you may not have heard of him, hopefully you hear that and go, oh, here's a guy that seems fairly smart, probably would know a thing or two about vocation, and is qualified, to share something that I should listen to. So listen to this quote from his book. He says this, quote, when I give something I do not possess, I give a false and dangerous gift. Okay, so think about that as a leader. We're talking about marketing and branding, and we're talking about the importance of your own character as you run and lead this personal brand or business. He says, when I give something I do not possess, I give a false and dangerous gift. This leads to burnout. Burnout is not the result of trying to give too much, but trying to give what I do not possess. I'm going to share that again. This is foundational because we will go exert all kinds of effort and energy on the other things we've been talking about, getting more customers, doing more in our marketing, running ads, all the stuff in our market. We start churning and going and blowing and going and chasing after things, right? And it can be exciting, and it's not bad to do that. But there is a reality that, most of the marketing books don't address. Like take any marketing, course or book. If one of the promises to you is, hey, by the time you're done with this, you're going to be better at marketing and therefore grow your business and make more revenue. If we assume that's true and the book or the course or whatever actually delivers, right? And you see more success, then we've got to figure out, okay, what happens if this is successful? We've got to ask that question. Most of us don't. Well, that's great. It's win, win, win all the way across the board. Well, we all know that our tendency is to do too much. It's to go to burnout. Burnout, we're burnt out because we're chasing after something that we haven't got it where we want, or we got it where we wanted to, and we didn't realize that by getting there, then, now the tail is wagging the dog, so to speak. So he says again in this quote, burnout is not the result of trying to give too much, but trying to give what I do not possess. Burnout is a state of emptiness, not the result from giving all I have. Man, that's helpful. Burnout is a state of emptiness. Burnout is not the result from giving all I have. I think that's one of the main lies out there. And you see it a lot in the marketing and branding space and personal branding. Like, he who is most competitive and works the hardest and outworks the others wins. I am all for diligence. I'm all for working hard. Go for it. But no, there is a dark side. The dark side is this: burnout is a state of emptiness. It's not the result of you giving all you have to your business. Burnout merely reveals the nothingness from which I was trying to give in the first place. Woo. That's a good quote, right? That's a good quote. I'll read it one more time, start to finish. He says, when I give something I do not possess, I give a false and dangerous gift. This leads to burnout. Burnout is not the result of trying to give too much, but trying to give what I do not possess. Burnout is a state of emptiness, not the result from giving all I have. It merely reveals the nothingness from which I was trying to give in the first place. Whew. Your character is foundational to your marketing, to your branding, to your business strategy, to your revenue, to how all of that impacts you and others, to your customers. Absolutely, it's foundational. Here's one quick tip I'll leave you with that you might try. Super practical. If you have a business or an office, right, you go into an office that's a home office. Maybe you have an actual, business establishment or a small business. Here's what I would suggest. Try this out. Depending on if you've ever done this, and it may feel weird, but practice 2 minutes of silence and solitude to reflect on, number one, who you are as a person and as a leader, as your personal, right, leader of your personal brand or business. Take 2 minutes of silence and solitude to reflect on who you are and who you are becoming. I would invite you to try that practice. It probably will feel weird at least the first several times you try it. And if this doesn't work for you, find something else. But don't neglect your character, how that shapes your values, and how that lays the foundation for everything you do in your business, including your marketing and your branding. Well, thanks for going. I know this was a little deep. This was a little different. You're like, where's the practical stuff? Man, it's important. But actually, the better tips we get, the better we get at that, like the more important this becomes. Failure is, yes, absolutely tough to deal with, but don't be fooled. So is success. The success promised by, so much of the help out there. So pay attention to your character, to your values, to the purpose you're living out with your personal brand or business. It is really, really it's important. It's important. Well, thanks for joining me. Listen, you likely know somebody who's maybe they're grinding away, maybe they're working really hard, maybe they're just getting started, but you probably know somebody who would be encouraged or maybe even challenged by this episode and maybe by that quote. And I'd love for you to just send this to them right now. You can just click on the up arrow wherever you're listening to this podcast on your phone or whatever, and you can text it directly to them. So I would encourage you to do that. It may be one of the best things you can do for your friend. Thanks again for joining me. I'd love to know from you from this episode, like what resonated with you or what challenged you about this topic. thinking about your character and your values in relationship to marketing and branding and growing a business or a personal brand. You can DM me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I'll put that in the show notes, or you can email me, robbie@robbief.com. Again, that's in the show notes. You can click right there on your phone and shoot me an email. I'd love to know how this just kind of resonates with you or challenges you. As always, check the show notes, the Radical Empathy Brand Framework. There's a link to download that. If you just want to get your hands on it, it's free. You can get that immediately. I'll also put a link to the book that I quoted from Dr. Palmer. So if you want to check that book out, the rest of it out, there's a link there. Thanks so much for joining me. I can't wait to see you on the next episode. In the meantime, go and build a life-giving brand.